So in this video I want to talk to you about how I save more with far less effort using the mobile banking application Monzo. It's not just a bank that has a flashy coloured card, it really is powerful, and in this video I'll walk you through my 3-step setup process for getting Monzo to save more effectively for you. And it boils down to 3 steps, and I'll link them next to me somewhere. And it boils down to Monzo pots, the salary sorter, and managing subscriptions and direct debits. So pots is actually kind of self-explanatory, right? It's a functionality that enables you to separate out your money into separate pots for specific purposes. Whether it's you want to set aside money for a holiday or a big purchase like a car or a big present, a laptop. You need to save for bills, for rent, all kinds of stuff that people kind of quite naturally need to be able to like separate this money out. And a funny story is actually, I used to know people who did this separation of their money by having multiple bank accounts. They'd have like 4 or 5 bank accounts where they literally put money in a bank account just for Christmas, and another bank account just for bills, and another account just for holidays. And that's mind-boggling that you're having to go through that amount of legwork when Monzo can do that functionality in 30 seconds. And what I'm going to do is take you through how I've got my pots set up for my own purposes and how I'm using the functionality. And I'm going to show you how you can do it yourself within 30 seconds and really get yourself set up well. So what I'm going to do is pull up the Monzo app and kind of take you through my pots. So to get to the pots view, you kind of swipe down and you'll see it here. And so I've got my personal account, which is like your current account, you can think of it. And then I've got a series of pots. I've got one for bills, so things I pay every month that kind of, with no question, you have to pay them. Rent. Help to Buy is like a savings scheme for first-time home purchases, so I'm saving up for that. Car bills, and Christmas 2020. The car and Christmas pot is actually quite a nice story here, because this is something I noticed last year when I was playing around with Monzo. Is I'd get these like months where it was a massive spike in expenditure, so I'd have to pay massive bills on my car tax, my MOT, getting it fixed, and roadworthy. Similarly, Christmas, as your family expands and you get older, you have to buy more and more presents. It's a massive spike, and I wouldn't save effectively for this. And so it's just like it would massively hit my income that month, and I'd be kind of scraping the barrel. And this is where pots comes in, and I'll come onto it in the salary sorter, how you can really effectively do this. But what I sat down in January of this year and I said, okay, wow, I spent this much on Christmas. I'm going to split that over 12 months and set aside that every month, so I don't have to stress about it when it comes to December. And the same with my car. The second cool thing you'll see is that the bills pot is locked. Now if I click into it, you'll basically see here it says pot is locked until 23rd of June 2021. That was an arbitrary locking that I did, but you can literally choose any date. And what this means is it's kind of an extra bit of friction to you using that pot and withdrawing it for KFC or McDonald's, right? Ultimately, you can actually unlock these. I won't tell you how, but it's just, all it is like you still have access to it. You don't have to worry when it's locked, but it's that extra bit of friction, that extra step trying to stop you and keep you focused on your well-intentioned, rational self and not giving into the lazy, irrational, emotional self. Okay, so let's say you've got your own pots you want to set up. How are you going to do that? So you scroll down to the bottom and there's this, under your personal account, create a pot. And there's some really cool pieces of functionality here that I'll quickly run through. So you can actually pick a wallpaper for your pot. So if I go back, and you'll see For example, the car, I've got a picture of a Tesla Model S. Bit of a dream, and I've got a long way to go, but it's, you know, it's a nice, I think that wallpaper, as trivial as it is, it's a nice way if you're saving for specific trips or specific items, because it's that extra bit of motivation as to why you're saving. You know, if you're saving for a holiday, like my partner and I are going to Canada next year, so we have a picture of Toronto, and it's kind of like that extra bit of motivation, like, oh yeah, there's a reason we're saving this. It's going to be such a lovely trip, and it's such a small change, but I think it really makes a big difference. So you can give it a name. So I'm going to say, let's say I've realized I spend a lot on birthdays throughout the year, so I want to regularly save. I'll pick a wallpaper, this time from the Monzo gallery with balloons. Goal amount, let's say I probably spend about £10 a month, so I'll put £120, so it's like £10 every month for the year. There is this extra option, which is round up transactions, and now I sit on the fence about this one, but basically all it does, and there's probably a number of other apps that do this, where every time you make an expenditure in a shop, let's say it costs you £1.73, if you have this turned on, it will round up that £1.73 to £2 and store that extra 27 pence into this pot. And it's kind of like a savings mechanism without thinking about it, just rounding up every time you make a purchase in the shop or online. A nice story is here that my partner did this last year in 2019 and kind of used it as her pot for spending on Christmas. So over the years she accumulated all this money from rounding up transactions, and then had a really nice pot of money where she's even aware that she saved it, and they could then spend it on nice things and gifts for Christmas. So I do recommend it for some to try out. Personally, I don't use it, but I have used it in the past, and there's definitely real benefit from using it. And lastly, the last bit of functionality, we kind of covered this, is lock this pot. So for example, I locked in the past my car bills account. So every, I think it's around August or September, I have my MOT, my tax, and my service, which adds up to a lot. So I kind of save every month, lock it until the following August, September, and then it can be released. Like I said, it's not fully locked, don't worry. You're not just like tying up money and you'll never get access to it. It's just that extra bit of friction. So I'll leave it like that and add it. The other thing is you can set a scheduled payment to this pot, but we'll come on to that a bit more in a second on the salary sorter. So I'm going to skip that for now. So part 2 of this process is using this tool that Monzo launched called the salary sorter, which is literally a life changer. Basically, every time you get paid, Monzo has some kind of like AI that recognizes a large income into your account and kind of classifies that as a salary or an income, and that enables you to use the salary sorter. And so what I've done is paid in £1,000 as an example of a salary for the month. And what you'll see if you come down to my account is you can click on that payment that's come in from my other bank account for £1,000. I'll scroll down and it comes up with this salary sorter option, and I'll press sort payment. And you get this view, like, here's the incoming payment of £1,000, and then it brings up all your different pots that you've set up and says, okay, sort your money, customize it. And now the first time you do this, you're going to have a bit of legwork to think about, okay, how much do I need to save for bills, for rent, for car, for Christmas, for holiday, whatever you want to save for. And so I'll quickly whiz through that. So my bills pot, I've written this down. I mean, I share bills with 2 other people, so this is not a real life accurate. So Help to Buy 100. Let's say I'm saving 50 a month for my car, 10 for Christmas, 10 for birthdays. I do have a joint account which I'll come on to in another video. I'll leave it 0 for now. But basically you've set that up, and then you can see that your spending money, or your main current account, is kind of like the difference, £178.26. And you can use this, for everyday shopping, like personal purchases and groceries and other things that aren't counted by these pots. And you can press save this sort, and so that is so that when you get paid next month for £1,000, you just tap sort salary, you pop up and verify, oh yeah, those pots still look reasonably the same, and you press sort salary. It has this nice animation of it doing it. It says done, okay, and if we go back to the pots page, you'll see it's sorted there all for me. So what we've done here is we've gone from this like massive cognitive load of having to think about how much you want to save for this, for that, for all these different things, and then saving like the physical effort of actually going through transferring between bank accounts or transferring between pots. That's a lot of faff, and it's a lot of effort, and sometimes you're hungry, you're tired, you're lazy, you're not going to do it, and you're not going to save. What this actually leverages is this kind of behavioral science concept of nudge theory. The term comes from a book of the same name by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, and I really like the quote that's on Wikipedia, and it says this: "A nudge makes it more likely that an individual will make a particular choice or behave in a particular way by altering the environment so that automatic cognitive processes are triggered to favor the desired outcome." Right, so what we've done here on Monzo is essentially change this personal savings environment, changing the default to saving money how your well-intentioned, rational part of your brain wants to. You know that you want to save for Christmas, for birthdays, for holidays, for cars in the long term. And so the default nudge behavior there is to save, and you tap 2 buttons and you're done. Whereas before, you've got all this massive cognitive load, and your irrational, lazy self is not going to do it. And so we're actually drawing upon real behavioral science here to save more by doing less. So I'll link to nudge theory on Wikipedia and a couple of articles about nudging for good and bad, and also how nudging is used by the government to help us save more for our pensions and to increase the number of organ donations that people opt in for. So there's it's a really fascinating field of study, and I highly recommend you reading into it more, but it's fascinating how this applies to your personal banking app. So the third part of this process is managing subscriptions and direct debit payments. So we all are overwhelmed with the number of subscriptions. When you think to like TV, you've got Netflix, Prime, Hulu, HBO Max, so many things that have this model where you have to subscribe and then pay a monthly fee, and it can get quite overwhelming tracking all that, and you end up potentially paying for things that you've forgotten about. Monzo is fantastic. So for managing subscriptions, you can navigate to this payments tab and then hit schedule. And what Monzo is actually doing, I think it's using kind of some artificial intelligence here to identify repeating payments and direct debits. And it gives you a really nice list of all the things that are coming out on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, a yearly basis. And it's a really easy way to manage your bills. For example, a payment to Mind is a direct debit for £7.50, and you have the option to cancel that direct debit with a tap of a button. Okay, so you can imagine when you've got all these subscriptions and you need to manage them, come onto your Monzo app, identify them every now and then and say, oh, I don't really want to be doing that, cancel, and it's all kind of hassle-free. Amazing. The second thing that links to pots here is that these direct debits can kind of come out, instead of coming out in your current account where you want that money for your personal purchases. You don't want it crowded out with, oh, I need to keep a bit safe for my bills. The other amazing feature about Monzo is you can pay bills directly from pots. So the money that I've put in the bills pot, £351, is siloed away to pay all my bills. So if I go pay from this pot, you'll see a list of, okay, my TV license, my energy, my Sky subscription, all just come out there without thinking about it. So I'm not having to, within the month, say, oh, I need to just quickly move from this pot to my current account so that the money goes out for my subscription. Don't have to think about it. That is, again, amazing at just reducing the hassle, reducing the effort to kind of handle these things. It makes sense to automate it, and this is why I love Monzo so much. So I hope you enjoyed that video on getting Monzo to do the work for you, to save more for less effort. This is actually one of a few videos I have planned covering the Monzo Bank application to cover other areas of being more productive financially. So if you did like this video, please like and give it a subscribe so you can see the next ones when they're released. And stick around here if you're interested in things related to tech, productivity and data. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.